So you want to know how much does it cost to start an online tutoring business? I hear you. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to like, hey, how much is this going to cost me? Is this going to equal out to me making more money, less money, the same amount of money as I was making before? These are great questions really to be asking because you want to know, what does this all involve? A lot of us like to kind of figure out like, what are the pros? What are the cons? All that kind of stuff. Well, today we're going to be diving into, the old costs that we used to have to take a look at and really the new way of doing business and the costs that are significantly lower than how they used to be. If you have a question about what it costs to start a tutoring company, definitely add them into the chat and I will be able to answer those questions as we go along. But I did a little bit of research before this. And I started taking a look at other different prices that it would cost if you wanted to start a franchise. But before I get to that, there is a link that you're going to be able to use to end up joining us for how to create a profitable online tutoring business webinar. You definitely want to sign up for that because you're going to get to learn all the ins and outs, not just the price and the cost and all that kind of stuff. You can get to learn all the ins and outs of starting your own online tutoring business. And so you definitely want to make sure that you click on that link and join us. It should be in the description. Beth will also put a link inside of the chat as well. But a Sylvan franchise, you guys, when I was taking a look at it, it used to cost between $69,760 to $161,445. And this ended up being, there was a franchise fee of $24,000 that's also in the mix in that price. But on top of that, then you had to hire employees and pay your employees and have a secretary and have all of those kinds of things, right? So there was a huge amount of money that had to get invested on the front end in order for you to make money on the back end. And a lot of tutors don't consider this when they start their online tutoring business. They just kind of look like at every single little cost that they have. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I have to pay this for this and I have to pay that for that. But when you start taking a look at what people used to have to invest, it makes way more sense to start an online tutoring business today than it ever did before. And I think here's one of the other things. I have a friend, her name's Esme. Some of you may already know her, but Esme was spending 15 hours a week driving from each of her students' houses. And so she charges $60 an hour. That is costing her $900 a week in her time, right? Because she could be working with other students during that time. And she never took into consideration the gas that it took in order to go from house to house to house. So these are hours that she could have been working with other students. So it was costing her. When I think about a cost, I think that is really a cost, right? That's costing her that much money because she can't make money during that time because it's not physically possible to tutor and drive at the same time unless you have your own chauffeur, which at that point in time, there's going to be a cost associated with that. Am I right? All right. Now, in my area, like let's say you wanted to hire like a secretary. In my area, it costs about $31,548 to have a full-time salary of a secretary. Now, this number will change based on where you live, but I mention this because let's think about the jobs that a secretary does. So a secretary is someone that takes care of your scheduling, the payments, takes care of, all the invoicing, which tutors are going to be in which time slot and all that organizing, paying the employees, all of those kinds of things. That's what a secretary is going to be in charge for. There's now a tool that will be like your automatic secretary. It's so cool, you guys. It's called TutorBird. And it will keep track of your students' schedules. It'll keep track of the payments. It'll even auto invoice, or you can have them auto invoice monthly or just automatically pay monthly. And it only costs $12.95 a month. So that equals out to be like $155 a year. What? That's it. Like, that's insane. Now, if you have more tutors that are working for you, the price increase with each tutor that you add on. I think it's only like $5 a month for each like tutor that you add on. So it's not a huge increase, but it's a model that allows you to really put your business on autopilot and be able to make the money that you want to be able to make and be able to spend more time tutoring the students you want to tutor instead of managing your business. And I think that's one of the pieces of it. A lot of people just think about, their tutoring time. They don't think about the time that it takes to manage their tutoring business. And so that ends up, costing them money over time, because if I'm spending, let's say 5 hours a week managing my business instead of working with students, well, then take what you charge, if you charge $50, that's $250 of missed income that you're making because you're spending that time on working on your business versus with your students. Now, this is definitely going to be more affordable than hiring a secretary, but there's also another cost, and this is the one that really ticks people off big time, and that's processing fees. So the easiest way to offset processing fees is to increase your rate, okay? So let's just say that you are charging $50 an hour, charge $55. It takes care of then your processing rate and you'll be good to go. So $55 an hour ends up meaning if you're going to end up making $20, that's going to take care of the processing rate. You're good to go, right? So you don't have to worry about it then. Businesses do this all over the place. Why? Because when you hand over your credit card, there is always a processing fee. Always. But it's not on your end. The processing fee is for the person who's taking your credit card, right? And so they don't say, I'm sorry, that's going to be an additional 3.49% to process this fee for this transaction for you. No, they increase the rates so that it takes that into account and it doesn't affect them in a negative way. And so that's what you need to do as well, is increase your rate. And some people are going to think, oh my gosh, but Joanne, then that means that people aren't going to want to hire me because I'm charging more money than, this other person over here. And, I teach people how to market themselves so that people aren't looking at the total cost of what it's going to cost them to start their tutoring business, right? Like, what is it going to cost to hire you? I help them with being able to market themselves so people are attracted to you and they want to work with you regardless of what you charge. Every parent will have the objection of you're charging too much, and it doesn't matter how much you're charging. I've heard tutors that are charging $10 an hour and parents have said that it's too much, or $20 an hour and parents are saying that it's too much. It isn't because they're objecting to how much you charge. You just haven't given them the reasons as to why you are the best fit to be able to work with their child. And it's the only question they know how to ask. So if you haven't done a good enough job with listening to them, what they're specifically struggling with, if you're just texting back and forth with people, you're going to get a less turnaround rate of people saying yes. You need to get them on a free consultation. When you can get them onto a free consultation and you can listen to what their kid is struggling with and how you can be the solution to their child's problem, and then you ask, are you ready to get started? They will say yes. All right. So you just have to be confident when you have that conversation, and you're going to have some really great results. So I started taking a look at, the prices for the different processing fees. So let's take a look at, I know lots of people, they wonder well, should I do Venmo? Should I do Stripe? Should I do PayPal? Here's the thing with Venmo. Venmo will only be accepted in the US. So once you start working with clients from all over the world, Venmo won't work. So you got that. The other thing is, wouldn't you rather just run your business as a legit business? There are going to be people who want to pay with a credit card and not have to transfer money into a Venmo account and then pay you. So the other thing is, you don't want to chase down your money either. So sending multiple reminders to people that they need to pay you is never fun. And then you got to keep track of, okay, who paid, who didn't pay. And you have to keep this Excel spreadsheet going so that you have all that information. When you have something like TutorBird in place, it automatically is sending those invoices for you and keeping track of who's paid and who hasn't paid, and if they're behind, how much they're behind, if they owe anything. You have all of that data in one glance so that you have that information right away, which is going to be a huge time saver for you. But I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that you can see the pricing for commercial fees here. If we take a look at, I'm just going to go back for a second here. It is going to be 3.49% plus a fixed fee. So this is the credit card fee. This is what the credit card companies are charging. Sometimes it's like 2.99%, whatever that ends up being. Like there's a little, PayPal has a little extra thrown on in there to kind of, pad their pockets a little bit and make sure that they're safe. But if we look here, it says fixed fee. And these are the different fixed fees for the different current countries. So it would be the 3.49% plus 49 cents per transaction. So I typically will do only one transaction a month with my clients because I do monthly payment. So it ends up being 49 cents for the month versus 49 cents times 4, let's say, if you wanted to do weekly or something like that. So I find that just doing the one transaction very, very helpful. It saves, not that we're talking huge money, right? It's not huge money. If you got a lot of transactions going on like I do in a year, it might save a little bit of money, but it's not huge. And I don't do it because of that. Just so you guys know, it's just, I'd rather only have one payment come through. It's less that I have to keep, track of and all of that fun stuff. So at the end of the day, if you are charging $50 an hour, you work with your student 1 day a week, it ends up being like $6.98. Okay. And again, this is where I say, okay, so increase your rate by $5. Now you're making $20 to cover that $6.98. Do you think really anybody is going to balk over, if you're like, so I charge $55 an hour versus $50 an hour, or I charge $65 an hour versus $60 an hour? Once somebody that's going to pay $60 an hour or $50 an hour, they'll pay $55 or $65. At the end of the day, that is not going to be what's going to stop them from wanting to move forward with you. It's not like that for a lot of the people that come and find you. Now let's take a look at Stripe's payment fees here. If we take a look here, they have 2.9% plus 30 cents. A little bit cheaper. So if you really want to focus on which one is cheaper, Stripe overall will be a little bit cheaper than PayPal. It just depends on which one you want to move forward with. Stripe is integrated with Tutorbird. So that's cool. They're integrated with both Stripe and PayPal. When you take a look at, when the person takes a look at how their transactions go, it just usually says card. So they know they have to put in their credit card in there. It doesn't say it's from Stripe. So it's not like they are like, well, I've never heard of Stripe before. What's Stripe? And they start, wondering all about that. This is just the way that you manage it. Now, in the past, a lot of people, they had to actually purchase what's called a merchant account. And a merchant account would cost at least $50 a month. Plus you had to pay the transaction fees and the credit card fees. Actually, no, I think it took away the transaction fees and it was just the credit card fee. So that would have been $600 no matter what then out of the gate. That's how much you would be paying for the year on the low end. And it depended on how many customers you served, and that rate would then go up from there. So a lot of people will used to have to do these merchant accounts. And I know a lot of people, they start thinking about, and Amy mentioned here, I know how much my tutoring business cost me to start, and hoping to learn a way to work smarter, not harder, and streamline some of the components of my business logistics. Awesome. So glad. Yeah, absolutely. Streamlining some of these things is going to make it a lot easier for you as you move on into it. Now, a lot of people, they start thinking well, I don't want to buy anything for my business. I don't want to buy a website that's going to cost me money. I don't want to buy an email broadcaster system that's going to cost me money. I don't want to buy this subscription. It's going to cost me money. Again, you need to make sure that you're pricing your services so it takes these kinds of things into consideration. And so a lot of people, they want to be the cheapest tutor out there, And that's not my suggestion, because in the beginning, you're going to have only a very few amount of people that are requesting your services because they don't know about you yet, right? As you build your reputation, you'll get more and more referrals. You can even charge more because you only have so much of your time that you can give. And let's say you only have one session left, you can charge more for that session because you don't have any other sessions left. So this is how much I charge. Somebody will say, yes, I guarantee you, to that one slot that you have. Okay, so you are going to have like different things. I want you to think about your website like cleaning the windows of your shop, right? This is like sometimes a front window to who you are and what it is that you do. But if you don't keep a website up and running, people can't learn more about what it is that you do. The other is having a domain name. They're super cheap. I mean, gosh, they can cost between $10 and $15 for a domain name, and you can buy it yearly, or you can buy like a 2-year or a 3-year on it and hold on to your domain name. And lots of people like to try to use a domain name that is also a keyword to help them get found online. So keywords are those words that people will just like type on in to, they just type that on into Google and they find you. That's what you want. So if you find a keyword that can also be a domain name, that'll get you up higher in the search rate if there's not too much competition. So there's a rate where that won't help you at all. There's a number where that won't even help you at all. So you want to find and learn how to find the right keywords for your business. And then we have like different teaching websites that we like to use. Some of you like to use like iExcel or RazKids or education.com or whatever those resources end up being. They'll be usually like a monthly or yearly subscription that you add on. But this doesn't change just because you are online. I mean, that existed if you were to be a franchise. I mean, the franchise would pay that cost, but they would pay it for each, computer system that they had, right? So you just have to take into consideration, how much is this worth in my business? And for me, like RazKids is totally worth it, 100%. It's every single student just about I use it with. There are a couple kids I'm reading chapter books with, but other than that, I use it with everyone. Then comes the cost of like advertising. So in the past, a lot of people would use, Facebook ads, Google ads. Well, if you've been on this channel long enough, you will definitely know that that is not a strategy I suggest. A lot of us don't know anything about marketing when we start this. And so our funds go like this. We put them in and they go and they get taken out and it gets eaten up. It totally stinks. And this is because you are tapping into a cold market. So a lot of people don't know the difference between a cold market and a warm market. People, let's say, that are on your email list, warm market. They've seen your message over and over again. They know who you are. Cold market, never heard of you before. And so how likely are you to move forward with somebody you have never heard of in your life compared to somebody that you keep seeing over and over and over again? So that used to be that you only need 7 to 14 interactions with somebody so that they can see you, maybe through email, through your website, through, 7 to 14 interactions. It's now turned into 20 to 30 interactions that somebody needs to have with you before they are willing to buy from you. So the more that you are able to get on out there, the better. So that's why Facebook ads actually don't work as well for a lot of tutors, because it's tapping into people that have never heard of them before versus tapping into people that have heard of them. Now, if you know anything about retargeting ads, those end up with a higher percentage rate because people have heard of you. But for the most tutors that are just getting started, they are just starting with that right out of the gate, working with the cold advertising, and that's why it's not effective. People used to pay for ads in the local newspaper. They used to go into magazines. But today, for advertising costs, you guys, you can set up a free Google My Business, get found locally. Pretty awesome. I get a lot of people that way these days. A lot of people. People actually trust. They add a higher trust rate onto local because they could find you if they wanted to. Like the fact that sometimes that I'm like 30 minutes away from one of my students actually has like a higher rate. Like, oh, they're near me. They're not in some other random country that I've never heard of. So it gives you like an automatic lift in trustworthiness. We also can do organic online marketing. So the only thing it's going to cost me is just time. So I could do blogging. I can do, creating videos. I can podcast. I can use social media like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Clubhouse. And I can also do something else that is really awesome. I love this. Networking with other tutors. I can't stress this one enough. So many tutors get students from networking with other tutors. This is why I've created all of the communities I've created. I've got the ultimate support group for online tutors, a free group where you can network with tutors online on Facebook. Come join us if you haven't joined us yet. We've got our Jumpstart Your Online Tutoring Business Masterclass, which opens today. Those people build relationships that they're lasting. Like some people, they're like, yeah, I still contact the people that were in my group. I've hired the people that were in my group to work with my kids. I love that. I love the relationship building that gets to happen in that class. And then people move on into the Insider Secrets Club. And those are the lifetime people that are really serious about their business. Like they are the professionals of the professionals when it comes to the tutoring world. They've decided, I love this so much, I'm going to keep doing it because I absolutely love it. Yeah, and we have here networking with other tutors has been the best thing I've ever done for my business, and also a massive joy in my life. Yes, because you know what, you guys, tutoring sometimes can be lonely. It really can be. And so to kind of go in with that feeling of it can be lonely. It really can make a huge difference because you're networking with people that are in the same place as you, but you're also building these relationships with people that they do the same thing as you. It's almost like your little colleague group, right? And we kind of miss that, sitting around the water cooler, chatting with other people. Well, we get the opportunity to do that when we're networking with other tutors. Now, here's another thing that people don't take into consideration, and that is taxes. I know. So there is one teeny weeny little downside to taxes with owning our own tutoring business, and that is we have to pay double. We have to pay the employee and the employer tax fees. So you have a higher tax rate that you have to pay. So maybe you're paying 40% instead of 20%. And you have to pay your taxes quarterly. If you do not pay your taxes quarterly, and you live in the U.S., you will get extra fees given to you. They will actually take the taxes that they give a percentage on top of the taxes you owe, and they add more money onto it that you owe. So don't mess up on this part. Pay quarterly taxes. In the beginning, if you want to use Excel spreadsheets to keep track of your tax information, you can. If you were smart and you invested in something like TutorBird, you can put all of that information right inside of there. Or if you move to the next level of your business and you want to buy something like QuickBooks, you absolutely can. But let's talk about taxes really quick. I have an acronym. It is called TRIPS. T stands for travel. You want to make sure you are taking every single deduction you absolutely can. Do not miss out on any deduction, okay? When you guys are driving house to house to house, you could have been writing off the gas. Although I understand that a lot of you were taking money underneath the table, so you weren't even letting the government know that you were making this income. I'm not going to put any judgment on that. That's neither here or there. Is that legal? Technically, no. Not legal. So you weren't taking the gas that you were spending going from house to house to house. But now if you do have any gas expenses, you can deduct all of those immediately. So what else can you do if you are traveling? Well, if you are traveling, you can also write off any airfare, any ride shares that you do with, let's say, Lyft. Food gets 50% off. 50% off comes off of your total amount of money that you made. It gets deducted because obviously you would have to eat no matter what. You hold onto your receipts and you put them on in, and it makes it super, super simple. R stands for running your business. So anything that you need to run your business, this includes membership sites, remember those PayPal fees, those transaction processing fees? You deduct that from your total amount of money that you've made. Your computer, your internet, your phone, your marketing, all of that stuff, that gets deducted from the total amount. Then you start thinking about like your in-home expenses. And I've actually written all of this in my book, Job Security for Teaching for Life, How to Become an Online Tutor. I wrote this book back in 2012. Lots of the stuff inside of here is still very relevant. You can get it on Amazon. But if you take a look at like the home, if you have an office space in your home, you can deduct the amount of that 10%. You take, let's say if you have a 2,000 square foot home and 10% of that home is taken up by your office, you can deduct that amount off your mortgage payment. You could even deduct 10% of electricity since you need that to run your business. And these would be expenses. Like if you had a brick and mortar building, these would be expenses that you would definitely pay. All of that gets deducted. Now I want to move on into the P, which is professional development. Professional development includes things like conferences that you attend, books that you buy that you're learning from about your business. Maybe there's a great book called Helping Your Child with Language-Based Learning Disabilities you want to buy. Well, you can deduct the cost of that book from your total amount. Professional organizations that you join, like the Insider Secrets Club, that can be deducted. Professional magazines, professional membership sites, courses that you take, like the Jumpstart Your Online Tutoring Business Masterclass, that gets deducted from the total amount of money that you make. Networking groups that you're a part of, all of that gets deducted. And lastly, we have supplies. So if you need notebooks or binders, paper clips, staplers, tape, folders, pens, computer paper, ink for your printer, all of those things get deducted. Okay. So make sure to take those deductions, because it's not like when you were in the teaching world and you got $200 that you could spend on stuff. You have unlimited amount that you get to deduct from the gross amount that you tell them that you have made for your tutoring business. And then that automatically comes off, and your taxes are based off of then that, the money that is your profit. So the profit is what you get taxed on. It's not the total amount that you brought in. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys as you start figuring it out. And if any of that confuses you, definitely work with a CPA. Work with somebody who understands online businesses, can help you with your taxes, and will be able to get you the information that you need. So hopefully, as you start taking a look at like how much does it cost to run an online tutoring business, you have a fair idea of like how much it costs. You're going to make way more money than you're going to spend. We just had one of our tutors in the last group that joined us for Jumpstart. She ended up making over $30,000 in 10 weeks. And that is just an incredible amount of money, right? And very little overhead, very little cost in order to be able to bring in that kind of income. And that's not an income that we would have been able to bring in. That's like an entire yearly salary for a teacher, guys. And she did that in 10 weeks. Unbelievable. Heather Bourne, I'm not kidding you guys. You're going to get to, if you didn't hear her story last Thursday, she shared her story on there and how she was able to make that much money. The possibilities are endless. So you guys go on out there, crush it. I can't wait to continue to support you with your online tutoring business.